Hello, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Week 2 of the NFL. We had a good week in week 1. A couple of good picks went our way. That's great. Can't rest on our laurels, though. It's a short season. We got to get to work. So let's take a look at the first game I'm taking a look at today, which is between the New York Jets and the Tennessee Titans. So the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers, I have ranked really near the middle of the league. They have a decent running back. Their receiving core is really below average. Their offensive line's pretty decent, and they have a great defense. Looking at Tennessee, they have a weak quarterback, average running back. They have a weak offensive line, a weak receiving core, and a weak defense. So with all these statistics, taking a look at it, it should be pretty obvious which my pick is. And my pick for this week in this game is New York Jets minus 3.5 at minus 103, and I took that at Prime Sportsbooks. So moving on to the next game that I'm taking a look at. I'm taking a look at the game between the LA Chargers and Carolina. So when I look at the Chargers, they have good quarterbacks, they have good running backs. The receiving core is not very good. The offensive line's kind of weak. Their defense is really average to below average. Carolina, on the other hand, I have the quarterback ranked the 31st out of 32. The running backs are really average. The receiving core is kind of below average. The offensive line and the defensive front are both average. But when I look at the defensive secondary, they actually have a pretty decent secondary in the top 5 in the NFL. So again, this is another one of these picks that I feel is like going to be controversial, but I like in this game Carolina on the money line at 246. So Carolina has a good secondary. The Chargers, I don't think are that great of a team, especially when I look at their receivers, their offensive line, and their defense. They have a much better quarterback, and I'm not debating that, but the quarterback's maybe the most important man on the field, but he's not the only man on the field. So in this particular game, I think that the stronger defense of Carolina is going to give them a chance in this game to stay in the game. Again, I don't have Carolina as a favorite to win the game. I have Carolina probably closer to, again, like maybe a 40-60 or so, but I think Carolina has a shot, and at a great price like 246, I'll take those shots. I think that there's a lot of overreaction in the marketplace due to the fact that the Chargers won last week and Carolina got pretty badly stomped, but the Saints are a good team. They're a better team than the Chargers are. So I think that there's a little bit of overreaction. So in this case, I'm taking a look at Carolina, and I took them at Prime Sportsbooks. So moving on to the next game, I'm taking a look at the game between Seattle and New England. So Seattle is a good team. They have a decent quarterback. They have a decent offense all around. New England's a little bit weaker. The one bright part about New England is their good secondary. With Seattle, they have a strong defense overall. But with this game, I think there's a little bit of overreaction based on the scores of last week. They have a very low total in this game at 37.5, so I took that over at ESPN Bet. I think 37.5 is a very low total. Really anything could go wrong for either team, and they'll score points, a pick six here and there, a fumble, play here and there. That could lead the game to the over. So I think there's good value on the over here just because I think everybody would look at this game and immediately think under. So if you like these picks and you like this analysis, if you missed my video last week, I run a quantitative process every week that takes into account statistics to give the most unbiased picks in NFL. If you find this helpful, if this is useful to you, please like and subscribe to the video so that we can stay in touch and work together this season and make it a great one. So moving on. The next game I wanted to cover is Pittsburgh at Denver. So Pittsburgh is really an average team. They have a good defensive front. They have an okay secondary. Their quarterback's average. Their running backs are average. When I look at Denver, they're weak in quarterback. They're weak in running backs. That's a rookie who's starting. Their receiving and offensive lines are around average. They have a weak defensive front, and they have an average defensive secondary. But again, this is another game where I feel that people are overreacting to the two teams and how they would go. Again, they have a very low total at 36.5. I took that over at Caesars. With totals that are these low, like I said before in the other game, anything could go wrong, and it's going to fly over the total. So I think 36.5, there's a lot of value here on the over. So the next game I'm taking a look at is Chicago versus Houston. So Chicago won last week. Their quarterback's a rookie. I have him ranked pretty low, basically because he's a rookie. I don't usually rank them too high. They need some time to get used to the flow of the NFL. They have a good receiving core. They have an okay offensive line. Their defensive front is weak, but their defensive secondary is pretty decent. Looking at Houston, the strong points of their team are really their quarterback and their receivers. When I look at the defense, it's below average. Their offensive line's weak. If you watch my video of preseason, that was one of the key weaknesses that I looked at with Houston. So therefore, in this game, Chicago's getting a lot of points, so I took Chicago plus 7 at minus 106, and I took that at Prime Sportsbooks. I think that Chicago's defense and the lack of defense from Houston will allow them to hang in the game. 7 points is a lot. They had a good win last week. I think they'll continue it on and not lose by more than 7. So the last game that I'm taking a look at this week is the Monday night game between Atlanta and Philadelphia. So with Atlanta, they're really an average team across their offense. Their offensive line's very good. Their defensive front's okay. Their defensive secondary is pretty decent. Looking at the Eagles, their quarterbacks, their offensive line, their receivers are very good. Their offensive line is very good. Their defense is really around it. One of the things with the Eagles is I feel like the Eagles are a weaker team than they were last year. I bet on the Eagles a lot last year, but I feel like their strength has really come down over the last year. I think Atlanta's better with Kirk Cousins quarterbacking. So because of that, I took Atlanta plus 6.5 minus 104, and I took that at Prime Sportsbook. I think Atlanta will be able to hang with the Eagles and not lose the game by that much on Monday night. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Bye.